butt dimples.
Ooh. Welcome to another episode of From the Pit, where we cover everything from digitized tape hiss lace gospel to, god damn it, that fucked me up, post blackgrass on the ragtime. Yeah. You like that, don't you?
On the rag.
Yeah.
It's fucked, dude.
Ron just got the giggles now.
I do.
It's almost
official.
as fucked as a goat drinker running for Senate.
Holy shit.
That brings us right to brutal news.
Oh my
Right
God.
into it. No
Yeah.
games played. It's
The goat
Yeah,
drinker.
Florida.
Augustus Sol Invictus, who
Invictus.
was running under the
Libertarian?
Party.
Yes.
Wow, that sounds like a Roman
Yeah.
metal album.
Oh, dude, he sounds like he probably used to impale people and just leave
Well,
them outside the palace. We'll let you know.
if anyone hasn't heard yet, which I'm assuming most people have, but this man took a 10-day walk out into the Mojave Desert because fuck everything, I guess. And then upon surviving this, sacrificed a goat and drank its blood.
Yes, he did.
He tried to justify. He's like, I know sacrifice goats might be a quibble to some Americans, but yes, I, upon returning, sacrificed an animal to the wilderness god, and I drank its blood.
The wilderness god, he doesn't even have a name for it.
He also has some apparent neo-Nazi ties
Yes.
that he's trying to bring into his political world.
According to some of his former party, what would you call them, co-workers?
Constituents.
He's a self-admitted fascist
Yes.
and has tried to bring neo-Nazis into the party. He's running as an independent now.
And he's running for Senate, for Florida Senate.
Yes, only in Florida.
One of his goals is to create a civil war.
I say we back him as the Florida Chupacabra.
Florida, land of great death metal and crazy people.
What the fuck, Florida?
Don't leave your goats out at
we
night in
should
Florida.
start a section just called "What the Fuck, Florida."
Wouldn't be too
Chupacabra.
hard.
The people for chupacabras are not represented properly.
Oh my God.
So
In other news, we have Waylon Revis leaving Mushroomhead.
one of the vocalists.
One
For
of the
those
vocalists.
who didn't know, Mushroomhead had 3 vocalists. And now they have 2.
Oh no.
Yeah.
How will they-
There was
How will they
irrevocable
manage?
differences.
So
How they pick up the slack?
It took me a minute because I didn't think anyone still cared about Mushroomhead, or that they were still making music. Apparently, they're still making music. I can't verify whether or not anyone cares. But
There's a 12-year-old somewhere going nuts.
Yeah.
I-
Waylon Revis, he's my favorite. He's the one who wears the mask.
The
with thing
piranha
on it.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
upon hearing it, I thought of Mudvayne.
Yeah.
And it was only when someone reminded me that Mudvayne was a band that I remembered, oh wait, Mushroomhead's a different band. So one of their 3 vocalists quit. Apparently when one of the other old vocalists came back.
Oh, that's
That's what it took?
Yeah.
Some prima donna
You
bullshit.
saw the one guy actually had beef on his face.
He literally has beef every day.
So,
Commander beef.
yeah, Mushroomhead.
In sad news,
Yeah.
Satyricon's frontman is suffering with a benign
Brain tumor.
brain tumor.
It is benign.
He, which is good. He was suffering a bit. Finally went to the doctor. Found it out. They're not removing it unless it's a life or death situation because apparently it's very complicated and shit can go awry
Brain
too.
shit.
Yeah,
Dude.
too easily. But he is saying he's just taking a rest a little while, but then he will be back to Satyricon and also he's also into making wine, some wine projects. So
That's great.
That's cool.
If you get any more information about that,
I am going to be looking into it.
that may have to be an episode of Brutal Brews.
So I'm a fan of Satyricon just because of the different sound they provide for black metal.
A little
Yeah.
groovier.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
he adds kind of like nice. I would call them as like rock riffs. They're just catchy.
Yeah, they're a great band, so I'm happy to hear that he's okay.
Yeah.
Let's hope that it remains that way.
And he's on the upswing, if anything.
Yes, it's still a. I mean, he has a brain tumor. It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
He's at least when as far as I believe it was on Instagram, he's being positive about it.
Yeah.
He says like, "This is the cards I was dealt with, so carry on."
What else can you do?
Right.
No, it's refreshing to see a lack of entitlement or pity.
Yes.
Woe is me shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, guys, no.
Carry on.
Good on him.
Speaking of black metal,
If you need a chuckle, I would run over to Metal Injection, click our link. You'll get to check out the Norwegian Prime Minister practicing her blast beats.
Miss Irma Stolberg, Norway, very talented. Very talented.
Well, as she says at the end of the video, the most important thing is keeping the rhythm.
Exactly. If you're not keeping the rhythm, oh boy.
I believe it's time we go. Things what's hot off the press.
Yeah. I know this is one of your favorites.
Yes. Borknagar in January has the album Winter Thrice coming out. I believe it's January 22nd. I'm pumped for this. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I'm excited. I wasn't super familiar until we did the episode of Brutal Brews with them and listened through the album a couple times. So, really, really good stuff.
Yeah. I'm actually pretty excited for Haunted Shores. It's a Periphery offshoot. They have an EP, Viscera, due to be out November 3rd.
Viscera.
Now, I like Periphery. I'm not a huge fan of their singer, but I like Periphery, and I like Matt Halpern and Misha Mansour and all the guys and everything. So I never even heard of Haunted Shores, and apparently they've been out for a little while.
I've been checking them out for a little over a year now.
Yeah.
Just kind of doing this before we started recording it, and I was attracted by the technicality and a little bit of a experimental sort of decent production value, more or less what you could expect from the guys at Periphery.
Periphery, exactly.
So you were doing this first. You want to make that clear? Be a little hipster about it.
Oh, shut up, Mr. Fucking cassette tape collector.
I had to make sure the neighbors couldn't see your cassette tapes with some of that graphic material. We got children.
The neighbors were over?
No, there was that one with the lady all splayed out, facing the back window. So I was like, oop, no.
That's why that was turned over.
First world metal problems.
It's good heat sludge.
Then we have Scour, which is a Supergroup featuring it's Phil Anselmo of Pantera, John Jarvis of Pig Destroyer, Agoraphobic Nosebleed, and I'm not even gonna some crazy band name with a bunch of letters and stuff.
You heard it here first.
Derek.
Yeah.
We have Derek from Cattle Decapitation, Chase Frazier from Animosity, Jesse Scrobel from Strong Intention and Cast the Stone, and it sounds heavy.
Yep.
It's just an insane. I mean,
it's like the Justice League of metal.
This is the year of the fucking supergroups.
Yes.
I really feel like it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Phil Anselmo with anyone from Agoraphobic Nosebleed and Cattle
Pig Destroyer.
or Pig Destroyer was I can't even remember.
Yeah, no,
I'm really
too many.
we have Pig Destroyer, Agoraphobic Nosebleed, Cattle Decapitation, Animosity, Decrepit Birth, and Strong Intention. All
Say
big
that all
numbers.
10 times fast.
Fuck you.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, other than Animosity, some of my favorite metal shit in the past decade. So, fucking awesome.
This should be amazing.
Yes. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, Phil Anselmo's clean, so hopefully we won't have any of that my back shit from the 90s. So.
One of the most anticipated Doom albums is dropped about 5 days ago, about a week ago by the time this uploads, from Windhand. It's the Grief's Infernal Flower. We checked it out a little bit on previous episodes.
It sounds like you're talking about Grief's vagina.
I'm sorry, what?
Georgia O'Keeffe much? That's right. So,
Shut up,
dude. They're awesome. They're hitting doom real cool in a groovy sort of, almost like an Uncle Acid sort of way. So I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and today, the day that you're watching this, today is the fucking day. The H2O album is out. If you haven't,
here.
Yes, it's already been put up on Bandcamp for streaming. I've listened to it probably fucking 12 times in the past 2 days. Fuck. We'll talk about what might be one of the, possibly the most consistent band in hardcore.
I believe when doctors say that you should have a certain fluid ounces of water every day, they're not actually talking about the liquid. They're talking about the band. They're talking about how many tracks.
At least 8 tracks a day.
Yeah.
1 CD.
I ain't shit. The CD's about 18 minutes long.
Now, on to our discussion. Can we have our cake and eat it too?
Mm-hmm.
Also known as...
Is there a place for step-up bands?
Mallcore.
Yes, that is one of the many.
Mallcore, easycore.
To specify the terms of this discussion, we're going to talk about whether or not it's appropriate for a band to tailor their sound to a broader spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to say that.
Yeah. Without sounding like a dick.
No. So, I mean, what it really comes down to, you get certain bands, and most people have them, unless you were lucky enough to have a friend or an older brother or someone who got you into the music that you're into. Anyone who kind of gets into it on their own starts with something they hear
on the radio, whether it be a friend, like somewhere along the lines.
Something that anyone could possibly hear at some point, whether it was, a track on the radio, whether they walked into a Spencer Gifts or a Hot Topic and heard something and were like, oh, this is different. And, it turns out it's kind of a fucking shit band when you get into it, but without that band... the scene might not have a lot of its fans.
This is still also very, like, personal preference-wise, because I don't necessarily think that, like, if somebody likes a band, then the band is good to them. Like,
well, yeah, you like what you like. There's that's an inarguable point.
But I think the debate is more of bands that try to split genres in order to appeal to both sides of the field rather than being true to one side.
I think I would also qualify bands that have started out in a certain extreme music category and then
tone down.
Tone down's not the fair way to put it.
Tailored their sound to be more digestible.
Ditch the extremity. That's what I noticed in a lot of my examples.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair.
This, as far as saying, is there a place for step-up bands? I don't know about necessarily everyone else's experience, but finding new bands for me sometimes was, there were certain, I forget what the name of it was. I think it was it Rockabilly or Infinity One? They used to sell all like metal and
Rockabilly
merch. Yeah. And I used to just look through the t-shirts and had band names, and I would then go on LimeWire or something like that and look it up. So there wasn't necessarily a step-up process. It was
I didn't
throwing darts at the wall.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have that at the time. When I was first really getting into music, we didn't even have fucking Napster yet. There was no YouTube, there was no Last FM. We didn't have all of these different ways where you can say, "Ooh, I like this. Who else is like that?" So for me, it started out digging through my dad's CDs and hearing, different shit, and it kind of grew from there.
To be fair, I grew up with my parents' CD collection, Guns N' Roses, Green Day, stuff of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, I guess I'm a bit of a freak. I listen to a lot of stuff growing up. I used to listen to rap for really, really heavy for a while, and then that somehow eventually led into just metal. Metal. Sepultura and Slayer and Pantera and all that. And then at some point that my Tony Hawk phase kicked in. And so then that turned into like Bad Religion and fucking NoFX and Green Day and Blink-182, Sum 41 and all that. And then at some point in high school, a friend of mine, he showed me 4 Year Strong, I want to say.
Okay.
And it was just different. It was just something. It was familiar in the sense that I could recognize it as pop punk, but there was just something about it that was cool. It felt like it was a heavier version of pop punk, and from that led me into like Set Your Goals and like A Day to Remember and bands that were kind of teetering more on the heavier side of it.
Melodic hardcore.
Yeah, and then
modern melodic hardcore.
And then bands like that would eventually lead me on into the much deeper, darker, heavier waters. And I feel like if I hadn't had 4 Years Strong and A Day to Remember to kind of acclimate me to the idea of like the genre and what the artists were trying to convey and the whole feel of the music, I don't think I would like as be into it as I am.
Yeah, I had a very similar path where it was, I got into a lot of my dad's CDs, got heavy into like Pink Floyd and Zeppelin and Jethro Tull and all that shit, and then I discovered Sabbath. And I was like, ooh, wait a minute, there's something here. But I never really got too far past, what everyone knows, Metallica and Anthrax and Ozzy. And it was Anti-Flag who turned me on to punk. And it was from there that I discovered I like this version of punk, and I got really into hardcore. And hardcore had its crossover shit, which kind of led me back into thrash metal. So it's always interesting, I can't fucking stand Anti-Flag. Can't stand them. But without them,
you'd be a very different person.
Maybe not,
That wasn't my argument, is that, at least in my case, there wasn't necessarily a step up. I just started typing, this is cool. And when something really heavy came up, it was just like, oh, what is this gold that I just found? From right away,
Well, it also, a lot of people, it's a palate builder.
Totally.
When I first got into it, shit like Cryptopsy, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, shit, I can't make heads or tails out of this. You know what I mean? It was just, it's too much, it's too abrasive. I wasn't used to something that loud and aggressive. Yes. Even having been familiar with like Metallica and shit, that's a whole different ballgame. So then listening more to other shit that wasn't quite as heavy, listening to a lot of like Children of Bodom and In Flames and that sort of shit where it gets heavier but it's still listenable, eventually led me to...
I feel like then I had like a really rare experience because I got to hear Cannibal Corpse at 11.
Holy.
Yeah, they were one of those bands...
you make sense to me now.
They were one of the bands that I liked early on for the pure sake of the fact that it was as ridiculous as it was, but I still didn't quite get it.
I know,
what I mean?
It just... Probably from like 11, 12 on is when I really started hearing... like that heavy sound, that's what I wanted.
All right, so I think I finally figured out a way to put it. But like when I was younger, I was kind of the same, scattered all over the board. My parents were listening to a lot of classic rock, and then sort of like the Temptations. There was like an eclection there, but I didn't latch on to that, until later. I started off kind of the same way everybody else did, sort of pop punk into sort of almost like a new metal sort of thing. And then once I found, hardcore, metal, and the more extreme musics, I also coincidentally started developing like my values, and that music spoke to me a lot more on my value basis than some of the previous bands that I was listening to. So that kind of accounts for my transition musically too.
Yeah, I think that's why these guys, Shai Hulud, were what really sucked me in.
Thrice, I mean, before all that, I listened to Anti-Flag too, and I regret it now too, but Thrice was a big one. Shai Hulud was a big one. Norma Jean's first CD was a big one for me. That really, and Poison the Wells, it was the dates, it was like 11 something, but those albums, they taught me what I really liked.
So it's tough though, right? Because we all have these bands, other than Frank, who is...
I was
it's okay. It happens.
But to branch off of Frank's, it wasn't for me so gradiated. Once I went from like the first generation to the second generation of real extreme music, there wasn't like a middle ground there. It was like straight from pop punk to metal, and it took a couple weeks to get used to the guttural lyrics and
Yeah,
the general tenacity, but that's what I wanted.
For me, the first time I heard breakdowns, I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is the dumbest shit ever.
That's what kept me hooked. That's what got me through everything.
Well, especially because you come from a side where you have a big appreciation for technicality.
Exactly.
And a lot of especially the in the more popular bands.
Yeah.
Some breakdowns are pretty simplistic. There's some that get really erratic.
And for me, breakdowns in general, I didn't get it until like I went to my first local show.
Yes.
And I saw a fucking band fucking tear the fucking place down.
When you feel that build up and then there's that stop and then the breakdown hits and it's just like holy shit.
And you just want to fucking destroy everything. It's great, and it made sense. It made perfect sense to me because I'm like, that's what this music is. Music is people getting out the fucking shit that they can't. The rest of the day, you know. And yeah, because like I was also coming from the school of technicality. Like I shred, like my favorite bands were always like the shred metal bands, like Paul Gilbert, Steve Vai, Jason Becker. Like they're all my Jesus, you know. And I didn't like the idea that lead guitar was being phased out of the genre and being replaced by this really kind of stupid rhythm trick, I thought. But over time I understood it, and then I understood like when you start listening to like some of the more advanced mathy kind of bands, what they can do to a breakdown. Like, it's really cool.
I guess I guess the inverse of what everyone else had is that like I'll listen to pop punk. I'll throw on the Wonder Years or something like that. And I enjoy it a lot. But I didn't start with that. That's just something that like I blasted myself with so much heaviness. And I was like, oh, look at this. There's this stuff too. This is fun.
So how do you feel when a band knowingly deploys tricks and changes their sound to appeal to that sensibility?
I don't think it's needed.
I don't either.
It's not, because like in my case, I started randomly typing in names that I found off of T-shirts or something like that, and whatever I heard, I liked. If I did like it, like it was.
Well, I think it's one of those. I think if that's just your sound, if that's what you are, if you're a lighter version, and that's just what you want to play, maybe you don't want to be as aggressive, maybe you don't want to be as in everyone's face. If that's just your band's sound, I think that's fine. Like I think Bodum is a stepping stone band for a lot of people. You don't have the screams aren't indecipherable. There's a lot of melody.
It's so very. It's their first their good run of albums were what I consider a leap, because it may not be as it's aesthetically aggressive, but like
it's not abrasive.
But it's
even
dark.
The earlier stuff. Yeah, it's dark,
and
but
violent and shreddy.
If you're looking to get into metal, which a lot of people are, and you hear Bodum, it's easy enough to listen to. It's not like throwing on Cannibal Corpse or like.
All right, but how do we feel about? I know we were kind of ripping on them earlier.
I don't think they do anything, in the first few to really appeal to a generality. They're just slamming.
Well, that's my point. I mean, yeah, to an extent, but it was always more on the speed than the heaviness, and I think that's easier for people to adjust to.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's not like I said. It's not going to give you a head. No, it's not that they're trying to reach anyone, and that's my point. That was just their sound.
I feel, especially when Bloodlust. What was that? Is that what that album was called? I forget, honestly. Had to do with blood, but Blood Drunk came out to me. That was like it had a more crushing, and they kind of didn't go as fast. They went for the crushing heaviness to it.
Right.
So they weren't trying to necessarily tone it down. If anything, they were.
I don't think that was ever what they were doing.
I know we were ripping on them kind of earlier, but how do we feel about bands like Mushroom Head and Mudvayne?
And there's the question. Thank you. It's tough because that was just the nu metal scene happening at the time.
Yeah.
Is it
a
bad thing?
Korn was good for the metal scene
at the time.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah.
All of that was because prior to the new metal happening, the 80s thrash shit had kind of faded out.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And people coming into the scene saw it almost as being kind of cheesy. So they needed something that was gritty and pissed off.
Yeah.
And that's what came out of it.
My example when we were kind of briefly running through this before was, and I don't remember precisely which of these two bands it was, but this has happened a lot in, like, you know, modern music. It was either Lost Prophets or Hoobastank.
Mm-hmm.
One of those bands started off
Lost Prophets.
sludgy.
Well, they weren't sludgy, but Lost Prophets were
Not what they were on the radio.
heavier. They were the first Lost Prophets album was kind of like a heavier Hoobastank. Or not Hoobastank, a heavier Incubus. Excuse me.
Because Incubus,
I remember it being
Hoobastank is the
pretty
poor man's
heavy.
Incubus.
Nah, they were always using DJ and all sorts of crazy shit. It was a cool album. Unfortunately, he tried to rape a baby, and
Jesus.
yeah,
but that was recent.
yeah.
A lot more recent.
yes, but I still can't listen.
Oh, no.
Phil?
Well, I didn't really like
Phil,
it.
I want to be honest. There's a fly on your head, and it's bothering me.
I was in one of the bands we mentioned in the new metal genre. You had Slipknot. If you listen to Mate Feed Kill Repeat, the self-titled in Iowa, and then you listen to Volume 3, that is a vastly different. That was definitely a toning down, and
It was, but Iowa's where a lot of people got into them, and that's a good example
but
of them.
Iowa, I still consider that was still good.
Yeah, but that's a good example of a band just having a sound that happens to be slightly more accessible than the more extreme shit.
Yeah.
It's not that they're trying to pull in an audience, but their sound just isn't.
I feel like
feel
over
like
time,
Volume 3 was a
well, sure,
What,
but that's not the at that
when
point.
it's
they
what was
were already pretty
Psychosocial
big.
one? That train wreck.
oh, that was right after Volume 3.
Yeah.
What was this? This was a late 90s band. Was it called Spit?
Might have been.
Same story as Lost
Slipknot.
Prophets or whomever, Hoobastank. They completely changed their fucking style after they had no success with, like, a more extreme act.
Mm-hmm.
Not a
But
fan.
I mean,
But that
alright.
I mean that's a little different than being
Well,
a stepping stone band.
And
Yeah.
Shikari, the band that I'm going to talk about in the very next segment, I think is more of an accessible stepping stone sort of band, but I back them 100%. Because there was no change. It was an evolution of music, and it started off sort of like, post-hardcore with some keyboards, and now we have really, like, well put together music, but it's always been back in this one point.
Mm-hmm.
Their music's always been about, like, a global unification. So
That's still none of this. I still feel like we're slightly off because none of this is hitting me as stepping stone bands.
Yeah.
When
the sound is really kind of light and digestible, and it's not like,
but that's really not gonna lead you into
Deeper
a lot
water.
of the extreme metal or like grindcore or anything like that.
Well, there's no.
Nah,
You know what I
I'd
mean?
argue that.
No, there's a way to get into that stuff. Okay, like my intro into a lot of the heavier, like one of the first super heavy bands I listened to was Sepultura, and like old Sepultura, Max Cavalera, and everything like that. Without that, I'm pretty sure a lot of death metal would just be lost on me.
So what led you to them?
What led me to them was probably Pantera. And Pantera was introduced to me by my buddy's dad. We were sitting. Oh, sorry, just awesome metal story. We're sitting there. I'm like 9, 10 maybe, and we're hanging out at my buddy's house, and his dad's sitting there watching MTV, drinking a beer, and fucking Walk comes on. And it's like the most awesome thing ever. I have no idea what I'm listening to. Then he tells me the whole story about how Dimebag got fucking, like, how he died and everything. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I need to know more. And pretty much I fell in love with Pantera from then, and then that led me into, like, Slayer
There's
and everything
there's
else.
an
That's way better.
example. Pantera, a band that almost every metalhead still loves, but again was one of those things where it was real easy to get into.
Mm-hmm.
never too in your face to quite. It's in your face, but it's not abrasive. That's the key point here. It's not. Abrasive. None of these bands that we've been talking about are abrasive to the point where like
they were.
If you're not used
they
to
were
it,
still aggressive though.
Aggressive, yes.
For their time. For their time.
No. There's a difference between being aggressive and abrasive. Abrasive is the shit where if you don't have the palate for it and you try to listen to it for half an hour, you're gonna walk away with a headache.
There was black metal at that time.
You're okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there was plenty of.
There was Christian black metal at that time.
Oh,
there was plenty of more extreme shit than Pantera, but they're heavy and they're aggressive. They're angry, but almost anyone can throw on an album who has an interest in getting into heavier shit and get into the further bands from there.
Yeah.
So I think in that case,
Pantera's a step up band, and then some.
And in that situation, it's
Metallica's totally.
Once they put that album out, they became global, and everyone loved metal.
I'm honestly like, all right, I'm gonna say Metallica, Slayer. I'll put into that category, and Anthrax.
Okay. All right.
Like the big four. Megadeth totally goes into that category because like it's metal, but it's not. I can listen to a fucking Megadeth album. It's like musical. Like even if you don't necessarily even like heavier music, you can get through. You can get through Megadeth album. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
So was there any of us that didn't just start listening to extremely aggressive music?
No, I don't think that's really. I feel like it has to be. Like no matter what the incline on it, there has to be some kind of like progression because you're gonna want more of whatever it is you're listening to.
That's true.
Even if you're listening to what in your day might be the end all beat all of that genre, you're gonna want more.
That's why Frank's listening to Harsh Noise all the time now.
Exactly. Then you end up like Frank, and you're just burnt out in your room.
But then what about this
Harsh Noise?
What about the stepping stone bands that are shitty? I mean, like Anti-Flag is a shitty band. They're a shitty band. So, would I have gotten into punk without them? I'd imagine so, to be honest. It's just they're what caught me first.
Yeah.
Sometimes it really doesn't matter what caught you first. Like I wouldn't put stock into the fact that I wouldn't have found my way where I'm at anyway.
Right, because I was already irritated with everything else.
Yes.
They were
That's
so
what I was gonna say.
Available and out there. And it's the same thing, like, even with Green Day. I like the early stuff because of nostalgia. Yeah. Because I heard it as a kid. If those albums were released today, I'd probably be like, fuck this.
Let me just real quick. I think we've kind of made a point. You've managed to get into metal right away.
Yeah.
We would probably have found our way to metal regardless. I feel like it's a mindset thing because I know people that are ska people, are punk people, and that is what they are till they die.
Yes.
So I don't think I can argue for the sake of step-up bands when they purposefully employ that mindset.
I think you have a point there. Really, I mean, like when you're a band like, I'd say the Butcher. Yeah, of course. No. We're never gonna leave them alone. But I feel like in modern day metal, they're gonna be that for a lot of these kids.
I'm about to really, really, really embarrass myself right now.
Okay.
But prior to being shown like System of a Down and all these great bands. 2 years ago? Prior to being shown like prior to my first time listening to Toxicity or Master of Puppets or Kill 'Em All for that matter, like I was listening to Green Day and Bowling for Soup.
That's okay.
Like I was listening to like the poppiest of the pop punk, and I'm pretty sure that if my buddies hadn't come along and shown me how cool some.
So you're saying if you met us and we imparted upon you the true wisdom, you would have been ignorant? Because I don't think that's the truth. I think regardless, what you're saying, even
no, because like I had no interest in like.
But you're a musician and you play.
I wasn't a musician at the time. I was not a musician.
Like how long ago?
This is like about almost 10 years ago now.
Oh, it's a long fucking time ago.
Yeah. No.
When I was like 6, I was listening to Kiss.
I mean,
what I'm saying is like my interest in metal is what got me into playing music in the first place. Because like when I first heard Orion, Cliff, that was what got me into one. I wanted to fucking play bass so bad, so bad. You can do that.
You're arguing our point.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying I wouldn't like. I wasn't seeking it out.
Right, but
it was something that was like
I don't know that
thrown into my lap.
And it wasn't a band so much that pulled you into it as much as it was the people who pointed you to it.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't need to have like a Mudvayne that you heard and were like, oh, this is different. I can listen to this, and then it slowly got you into heavier shit.
You
you
didn't
heard
slow creep into it.
You heard Orion.
Yeah.
Off of one of Metallica's finest albums.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of heavy, there's a very big gap between Metallica at any point in their career and
not at any point. I mean, they were when in the 80s they were when they were amongst the first and amongst one of the thrashiest of the
Big Four,
the thrash bands.
But there's thrashier shit out there, and I've heard thrashier shit.
Well, yeah,
since.
because Germany
picked
picked up on it, and Creator happened.
Yeah, I mean, we can't be blind to the whole metal power creep. It just gets heavier and deeper and heavier.
And what I'm saying is that I wouldn't have as much understanding of that power creep had I not experienced some of the creep, I guess.
Well, and that's a little different. They're not so much a stepping stone band at that point as much as they're just the roots.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And getting into something through the roots of it is, I got into hardcore because I got into Black Flag and Minor Threat and Dead Kennedys, and then eventually Gorilla Biscuits and later on like Champion and now I'm listening to shit like Lifeless.
I mean, that's like, and I got in on more of the second or third wave of like hardcore, and whatever boat gets you there. But whatever boat gets you there, I mean, like.
All right, I think you may have swayed me a little bit, but I'm still gonna say that I feel like some of these step up bands, they still have their place as far as, I don't know, like the proving grounds for some people. Some people who aren't sure whether or not they want to be into this kind of stuff, they can go to these kind of shows where the pits aren't quite as crazy and see if they want to know how far this rabbit hole goes.
That's exactly where the bands who are good but just less abrasive
they fall.
Kind of fall. So do we need bands that are strictly stepping stones that aren't necessarily producing quality music just to get new people into the music? And I think, as per Mike's point, no, we really don't.
We really don't.
It's the Dark Souls argument.
Yeah.
Don't treat me like a child. I can take more than this.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. Weigh in. Let us know what you think. What got you into metal or hardcore or whatever it is you listen to?
Are we all fools?
I'm not. I already know that. I have a certificate.
Ron, what time is it?
Come on, where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going?
Into the pit.
Yeah!
I was about to say Adventure Time.
Adventure Time.
I wanted to so bad.
I don't
All
know
right.
for this.
Too late.
So this week, I picked a band from right here in South Jersey. They are like a math rock metal fucking experimental instrumental group.
Fucking experimental.
It's
That's never good.
It's some shit. Like I said earlier, I love technique. I love people showing me how much smarter they are than me. Like I love that shit, and that's exactly what this is. These guys they fucking shred and rip and they groove, and like everything has this really really nice tight feel to it, and it's really cool. Drawing a blank on album names right now, but they're called Edge to the Atom. Links in the description. They're up on Facebook, YouTube. I believe they're on SoundCloud and Spotify and all that. So check them out. They're really good, really cool. If you like shred, if you like cacophony, if you like animals as leaders, doesn't matter. It's awesome. Check them out.
All right. This week I decided to listen to, well, I've listened to them before, but decided to do Axnar. It is a kind of a mixed genre. It's a one-man band from England. And
Of course it is.
And it's pretty much combining black metal with noise. And so black metal, especially in the second wave, really tried to go for the abrasive sound. Yeah. And when you incorporate noise into that,
Yeah,
it hits good.
It's kind of an inevitable pathway.
Yes. And, like, I have the obscure Sallow tape, which... Ooh.
Sallow?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah?
I'm assuming referential to the film?
Might be.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar.
We don't have the time and I don't have the patience. It's bad stuff. It's one of those. It's kind of like a Serbian film, only older.
Yeah.
Yeah, research at your own risk.
Yeah, no, it's...
Your brain will hurt.
This genre tends to go into the darkest depths as possible, and listening to it is very... I remember the first time listening to it, it induces feelings of despair.
It's like as if Immortal was playing a show on the side of a pool. You jumped in with a Silent Hill radio underwater and listened.
It's...
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Just kind of sit in your room, pop it in, alone.
And turn the lights out.
And kind of just let it do its thing.
Oh, God. What do you do to yourself? What the fuck? That's what listening to Cannibal Corpse at 11 does to you.
Raise your children right.
Raise your
They didn't know I was listening to that. But
oh, boy.
They've been around for a few years, still active, have plenty of albums to choose from. Give them a listen.
This week, I decided to go back and listen to a band that I've been a fan of for a good while now. We were talking about them a little bit ago. Enter Shikari. They put out the Minesweeper January 19th. This band's been doing a bit of an evolution since their very first release, which was real kind of lighthearted, sarcastic, pop punky with a little bit of like keyboard, like your modern sort of like dubsteppy sort of feel. Since then, it's come to evolve to a bigger, broader picture. And their like consistent message is what keeps me coming back. They're not strictly the most extreme band that we're going to cover here, but their genuine sincerity with their aggressive, fun sort of nature, I mean, is what keeps bringing me back. They have slow songs, they have fast songs, they break it down, they scream in your face. There's even comical bits. It's everything I could ask for. They're a great, bunch of British guys.
Bits.
Little bits.
Little bits.
The bits.
I recommend all their entire discography. There's about 6 albums. They're doing a side project that's going to be purely electronic, and they just keep telling you how to live right. So I love it. Check it out.
Don't tell me how to live my life.
Alrighty. So I did have a band I wanted to cover this week, and they're kind of a recent favorite of mine. And normally I take some time, I prep at least something about the band. I haven't. You know what? Fuck it, I quit now. I didn't do that kind of prep, and I don't want to do the disservice to the band of not presenting them properly. And I have the entire thing to blame on the fact that the new H2O album came out. So what I want to do instead, it's a little bit different. I probably should have warned you guys I was going to do this, but I didn't know I was going to do it for sure. Yes.
Finally hanging dongs.
Finally hanging
Thunder Gun Express.
No, we do a show that mostly caters to metal. I mean, like 70% of the time. And I'm kind of the hardcore leg of the show. It's the majority of what I listen to. So I feel like a lot of our audience probably isn't as familiar with H2O or what they're about. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people would listen to a song and be like, this is kind of poppy. I don't get why he's mentioning this. H2O is a band that was there in the late 80s in the New York hardcore scene. Extremely important. I mean, they've played with some of the greatest bands out of the scene, and they've always been about keeping shit positive. Toby Morse, the lead singer, is actually doing a thing now where he goes to schools to talk to kids. He's been straight edge his entire life. He's always been all about the positive mental attitude. So he goes to school with a program called One Life, One Chance, after the H2O song. and talks to these kids about how it's totally cool to not fall into the party scene, to not fit in with, you know, the people getting into the fucked up shit. There's nothing wrong if that's the route you choose, but I think it's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That, like, anytime somebody is giving back, you know.
Public outreach is one of the best things.
Oh, God. Like, that's just cool. That's
yeah,
really,
I mean,
cool.
this dude covered in tattoos, like neck tattoos, hand tattoos, is going to schools telling kids how to
do drugs.
Yeah,
Don't do drugs, kids. I knew a dude that did drugs.
So if you're not familiar, give it a chance. Expand your horizons. Melodic hardcore is really cool. It's influenced a lot more than you realize. So go back, listen to some of the older bands, listen to some of the people who laid the groundwork. It's really, really good shit.
Yeah.
I've listened to H2O and I love it. Like,
It's great.
Yeah.
my friend has put it on anytime he puts it on the car, it's awesome.
brings
The
me
one
right back
melodic
to growing up.
hardcore band I did a week or two ago, a few weeks back. Svalbard, something like that.
Svalbard?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're
Like-
a little on the heavier side, but it's definitely... Yeah, they're more the modern day sort of like comeback kid, melodic hardcore.
Like I'm starting to really get into hardcore a lot more now.
Well, that's...
like,
if not for...
hanging out with you guys.
If not for
This is
bands...
strictly metal, like chuggy stuff, but like this is really cool.
If not for bands like H2O, we might not have that.
Exactly. And I respect, I always respect Godfather's bands, like, where it's like they're the Michael Jacksons of their genre.
Yeah, and
without them, things would look differently, you know.
And 20 years later, they're still putting out albums that sound fresh, where they sound into it, they sound excited to be doing what they're doing.
They sound inspired.
It's fucking great.
Yeah.
So, go listen to the new album, listen to the old albums, listen to everything. I mean, their discography doesn't take that long to listen to. That's about it.
All right. Fucking tours.
Tours.
Every Time I Die has announced their Christmas tour. It's gonna be pretty sick.
There's something kind of funny about that.
Yeah.
Specifically calling it a Christmas tour.
It's gonna have Every Time I Die, Stick to Your Guns, Harm's Way, Revealer.
Wait a minute, the Every Time I Die Christmas tour is gonna have Every Time I Die?
Well,
Oh,
probably.
jeez. Will there be gifts?
Maybe.
Gifts of Sound.
Oh. Will it be Coal of Sound?
Coal of Silence.
These nuts.
Between the Buried and Me announces their Japanese Australia tour.
Word.
So
if you're in Japan or Australia, it's awesome.
It really is, especially because I know a lot of bands don't manage to make it over to Australia until they've gotten big enough that they can be sent over there. It's expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive. I know even vice versa. I know when I think it was D's Nuts were coming over from Australia here, there was they have issues with the visa
all the time.
They were supposed to play when I went to see Comeback Kid a couple weeks ago and couldn't end up doing it. They had to drop it. It sucked.
Yeah.
We got one more tour. Windhand is announcing their tour starting October 22nd.
Yeah, we also have H2O,
True.
who's touring. Shai Hulud is on tour right now. We've
When's
been talking
that
about it
here?
for a while. They're going to be in Warren, New Jersey this Friday, which is up near New York. So
it's barely New Jersey.
yeah, they're going to be in Pittsburgh this Saturday. Supposed to go to that.
Damn.
Unfortunately, I don't think I'm making it. They will be playing out in Pennsylvania towards the end of the month, like the night before Halloween. So I'll be going to that.
All right.
Anything else? I feel like there's something we're missing.
Check out Slimeball Steve if you've got any free time after this video. He does satirical media reviews on video games and movies. It's hilarious.
I believe that is going to be it for all. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment.
Definitely comment.
Yes.
Always comment. Say stupid shit. We don't care what you say. And share it on your Facebook and
that fly is back.
And your tweeters and your
twatters.
Whatever, your MySpace.
Tumblr.
Share it on your MySpace.
Graft it into your arm.
If you have a Friendster, even, you know.
Or a fucking live journal. Or a dead journal.
LJ, Jesus.
Reddit.
You should have a dead journal.
Cut this off before it gets weird.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Put it on the pit. Good night, ladies. Okay.